I was definitely not expecting this. All of a sudden, in the span of 3 weeks, it was like 20,000 followers in 3 weeks and 27 million views. And so I was like, wait,
Welcome to Living Big. Hey, I'm Marley.
And I'm Kylie. We're thrilled you're here. This season, we're exploring how to discover, cultivate, and balance passions with everyday life.
Through inspiring stories and actionable tips, we'll dive into turning dreams into reality, embracing creativity, and finding joy in what truly lights you up.
We're talking with creatives, entrepreneurs, hobbyists, and people who've turned passions into careers.
So stick around as we dive in.
Welcome back to Living Big. This season is all about pursuing passions, and today we're diving into the world of multi-passionate living with our guest, Melissa. We're so excited to have her here, and for those watching on YouTube, you'll see that we're doing this virtually because she lives in Texas. Before that, she's from Mexico, and we can't wait for you to get to know her. She's a creator, a painter, an entrepreneur, and she's the founder of the Multi-Passionate Club, which is a community dedicated to helping multi-passionate people thrive. I don't know why that's a tongue twister every time, but I love it. Her Instagram is fantastic. At the end, she'll tell you where to follow her and all of those things. But we're going to dive into how she's pursued her passions, kind of fighting the pressure to niche down and really fully embracing your creative side. She's built an awesome community. And we're just going to let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll jump into some questions. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're at currently, some things that you love, maybe a favorite snack, those kind of things.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to meet y'all virtually. So a little bit about me. Where do I start? I'm 24 years old. I live in Texas currently. And like she said, I'm multi-passionate. I love to do many, many things. And right now, I recently launched the Multi-Passionate Club, which is an online community dedicated to helping other multi-passionate people thrive and connect. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I'm curious, like, where the idea to start the online community came from.
So it all started with an idea, like almost everything. A hope that people like me who like many things and have many interests and passions could have their own space where their creativity is celebrated. And so, like me personally, growing up, I always felt alone and confused for having many passions and interests. And well, social media was not a thing back then. So a few months ago, I was like, you know what? With my expertise in like social media and content creation for the past 5 years, I was like, I should, create this. I should create this community, this space. I created this because this is what I wish existed back then when I was growing up and when I was so confused about being multi-passionate. And so that's how it all started. And right now we're almost at 30,000 multi-passionate people. So
that's amazing. Congratulations.
It's been amazing. I love it so much.
Did you anticipate that it was going to be that big right at first, or were you just kind of like, oh, like this will be a nice thing I'll do on the side?
Yeah, no, I was definitely not expecting this. I was studying at the time, and so all of a sudden, in the span of 3 weeks, it was like 20,000 followers in 3 weeks and 27 million views. And so I was like, wait, and then people were saying like, hey, like post more things. And I'm like, okay, I didn't expect this like that quickly.
I wasn't prepared. Yeah.
I was definitely not prepared for this.
Well, it just goes to show how much of a need there is. Like you were saying, you felt that. And it's so cool that many people also had felt that. And we're like, oh, there's like a vacuum. And we're so excited to come into this space and like participate together and talk about something that so many people obviously really needed. So I think that's amazing.
Exactly.
What's your go-to snack right now?
My go-to snack, chocolate.
Mm.
It's always chocolate.
Do you
Are
like
you
dark
a milk?
chocolate? Yeah.
Dark chocolate. Yeah.
Yes.
Girl after my own heart.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a sweet tooth, so I have to have a sweet snack after eating.
I
Yeah.
love chocolate. Have you ever had true fruit before?
Yes.
The
Yes.
dark chocolate raspberries.
I love it. I love them so
Takes
much.
me to another planet. They're so great.
Right? I know. Blueberries and raspberries, right?
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
So
Well, thank
good.
you so much for agreeing to come on. I think I was saying this earlier, but I'm just really excited for our audience because you have a huge audience, but I'm excited for our audience where the entire purpose behind Living Big was to basically do the same thing. It's not just about quote unquote like passions, but we wanted to help people see that they can live a full life. They can live large, right? And that doesn't mean necessarily you have to have a ton of money or whatever like the world's definition of success is, but we wanted people to see like if there's something you're craving, if there's something you are passionate about, if you want to increase your relationships, if you want to just make the very biggest mark you can on your life, it's possible. And it might take hard work. It might be a little uncomfy at times, but it can be so impactful and so fulfilling. And so that's why we created Living Big. And I feel like your multi-passionate community and our Living Big community really like gel together. So I've been so excited to interview you, and I'm so grateful that you agreed because like you said, we'd never met in real life. This is completely virtual. We saw your account. I saw it when it was at like 100 followers and I was like, this is so cool. Like I'm multi-passionate. And then for you to respond and agree to come on our podcast is just huge and awesome with your busy life. So we really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And I think that the thing I love the most about social media and about this is actually meeting, getting to know people and knowing there's people like me out there that have lots of interests and passions and they're living their best authentic lives. And I feel like you said a word, fulfilling, and I feel like that's all it all comes down to that, being and living a fulfilling life and doing what makes you happy, whether that's having a lot of interests and passions. And so I'm very, very happy to be here. So thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so when officially did you launch the Multi-Passionate Club?
July of last year.
Okay,
Whoa.
so
hasn't even been a year.
No.
Yeah, no. It was July, and then like the first month was like crazy, and it was really amazing because when I was at 200 followers and just like I would get messages of like people saying like, oh, I'm so glad I found your channel. And then when the account grew, I would, I don't want to say stalk, but I would go to see my followers and they would put on their bio like multi-passionate. And so for me, it was
cool.
like, I was like, okay, this is a movement right here. Like not necessarily, but I was like, wait, this is actually so, I felt so happy when I saw that. And I was like, I love this. I love that other multi-passionate people are relating to my content and my posts and are actually happy to be the way they are. So
I love that.
It's been a great journey.
You kind of talked about how growing up you wish you had seen kind of what you put online. How did you know that you were multi-passionate? What was that like, that journey growing up for you?
So when did I know? Well, when I was young, I started painting when I was about 6 years old. Then after that, I started playing the piano. And then I started writing poetry. And then I was obsessed with psychology and, self-help books. And so I was always reading about medicine, psychology, everything. And so that's when I was like, wait, I have a love and an enthusiasm for a lot of things. And not a lot of people were like that. And so that's when I knew that I was multi-passionate, because I just wanted to be everything and do everything. And yeah, I wanted to do all of the hobbies out there. And so I think that's when I noticed I was multi-passionate.
Yeah, I think we can definitely relate. I had kind of a similar experience where I was like, I don't have like a thing. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I felt like I had kind of found my thing. But even at that point, I just, yeah, didn't really have one specific thing that I 100% gravitated toward. And that was my calling in life or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, no,
Yeah, I
I feel that.
mentioning before we actually started recording the podcast part, but talking about how my dad was like a Renaissance man is what I would call him. And I think maybe I'm like, did I come that way or did I learn that? I don't know. But I think some of it, I definitely came that way because very much like you, I was like, ooh, I was into art and then I wanted to play the piano and then I also wanted to sing and then I also wanted to play soccer and then I also wanted to be really good at swimming and then I wanted to hike and then, just like a million things. But I struggled so much in high school. Same thing, like trying to figure out and middle school and elementary school, like where's my identity? Because I think it's pretty common for a lot of people to find like one thing and like really dive in, whether or not they're interested in other things, they like dedicate so much time to it. But I never felt like, quote, good enough at any one thing. And then I was like, but I also want to cook and I want to travel and I want to like grow a garden and all these things. And so I think being able to find out in yourself that it's okay to not like have to identify by any one specific thing is so freeing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, if this year I'm going to dedicate myself to like this thing and then next year I'm not even interested in that, like that's okay. Yeah. And then maybe you get to experience more life that way. I think personally, I think it's a great way to live because you get to experience a lot of different things, even if you're not like the best at anything.
Exactly. And you get to know yourself more and explore those interests and skills, because being multi-passionate is also being super talented at learning new things and being adaptable. And so those skills come in handy when, I don't know, you want to be an entrepreneur, like you need several skills. And so, yeah, I agree. And it's very funny that you say that your dad was like that, because my dad was like that as well. He was a doctor, but on the side, he was a musician. So he played the piano, the violin, the guitar, the saxophone, everything. And so growing up, I was like, this is normal. Like, yes, we're all multi-passionate. And then I grew up and went to high school. And then at 16, they were like, well, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? What do you want to pick? Like, you have to pick one. And I was just like, wait.
Write it down, sign with your blood. This is it.
Yeah, like this is it. It's one. And I was just like, wait, what? I'm not used to this. Yeah, and I don't think that's very smart of us to just pick one thing for the rest of our lives. And more so if we're like multi-passionate, right?
I also think like exploring being multi-passionate, I think exploring, like you were saying, obviously it can really impact your life in terms of the things that you're able to do or entrepreneurship or your skills and things. I also think it can really affect your relationships because we were mentioning to you that we both served our missions for our church in Ukraine. And I feel like in that aspect and then in regular life, I'm able to connect with so many different kinds of people that if I wasn't interested in anything they were doing, maybe it would be harder for me to have a relationship with them or to connect with them. And even if I'm not really good at whatever, I'm like, oh, I know a little bit about that. Like that's interesting to me at least. And so you can hold more conversations and you can open your mind up to new ways, new cultures, new people, new relationships. And it can just really like increase and make your life more fulfilling.
It really does. And it used to be the norm back then to be like a Renaissance soul. And then the revolution happened and a lot of things happened. And now there's a lot of specialists and they are important, but generalists are important as well. And like you said, it's these things come in handy. We can hold conversation and, we can relate to others as well because we like many things. And so that's pretty true.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never even thought about that. How maybe, having dabbled in so many different things is actually, you know, kind of an advantage. The whole jack of all trades thing is maybe not as negative as we as society have kind of made it seem. I was just
Yeah.
also thinking that I don't know if you guys took the aptitude tests in high school when, yeah, they have to, you do these tests and they try and figure out, okay, what would you be good at based on this aptitude test or whatever, right? And my whole thought, I guess, is it's incredibly limiting, not only because it puts you in a box for what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but it kind of sets you up for like that's your personality for the rest of your life. You as a person are no longer allowed to evolve or change or things like that. So I think my perspective is that as I've gotten older, I like to do different things, right? And so maybe giving myself permission to do those things is going to change maybe the trajectory of my life. I think it already has because
Mm.
I never thought I would do anything social media related, and here I am.
I
Um,
think that's so important to give yourself
yeah.
permission to pivot and change. And we're at the end of the day, we're just humans that are just living this silly little life, and we're obviously going to change. Maybe we like to do something right now that we're not going to like in 10 years, and that's okay.
Right.
So that's very important too
How
to
do you
remember.
get to that point where you feel comfortable with that and you say, okay, it's okay that I'm not an expert and I'm maybe a little scattered in the things that I like to do?
I feel like, and I think we talked about this, self-compassion is very important, and trusting yourself and trusting that what you're doing right now makes sense, because it only needs to make sense to you. And so if you like what you're doing, that's all that matters at the end of the day. And trusting that even if you're not going to do this someday, the skills you gain doing that will be helpful someday. And I feel like it all adds up. Like if right now, like you're doing social media right now and you never thought you were going to do that, but maybe you learned in another passion or interest you had, you learned the skills you have right now. And so I just feel like you need to trust yourself. And it's been a work in progress, right? I feel like therapy has really helped me with that, but
Mm.
just having self-compassion and knowing that what you're doing right now doesn't have to make sense to others, and it will add up and maybe benefit you in some other way.
It's so funny you say that because I was kind of a hair and makeup artist for weddings and special events for a bit. Um, and I posted on Instagram a lot for it. And now I gained some basic skills through that and now have made it into an actual business. So
It's
I think it's
amazing.
funny. You nailed that one right on the head.
It's true. It's
I think
true.
it's a powerful thought though to recognize that we're like ever evolving, changing beings. Like I think it's really easy to I think there's two different aspects. It's easy to get comfortable and just kind of like live life, and that's totally okay. And then it's also easy, I think, to let the responsibilities of life kind of weigh us down, I think, sometimes. And then to just say, oh, like I'll get to it eventually, or it's fine if I don't ever do that or whatever. But just allowing yourself to be okay with being uncomfortable and being compassionate towards yourself and pushing ourselves a little bit, I think can be a really good thing and kind of like an awakening moment for us. So I loved what you said there about having self-compassion for like who you were and who you want to be and who you're working on becoming in the moment. I just think that's all very important.
It is.
I have a feeling this conversation is very important for some people. If it's not, it's at least a really good pep talk for Kylie and I right now. Yeah,
That we all need to remember from time to time because we forget, right? I
Yes.
I myself
definitely.
forget. It's like a few months ago when I was, when I was juggling a lot of things, I was just like stressed out, and then my best friend was like, "Wait, you're the founder of the Multi-Passionate Club. Why are you like you're teaching others or like inspiring others to embrace their multi-passionate self? Why aren't you embracing that?" And so
Mm.
even me, I sometimes forget that, and it's sometimes we need to remember all of these things.
Humans need repetition. We just do.
Yep.
We learn a lesson and the next day we're like, what's going on?
Yeah. I like to put reminders like on Post-its or like quotes. They really help me.
Sounds like you have a really good friend
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
That helps.
It really does. It helps being friends with other multi-passionates as well, or creatives.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
People
Absolutely.
very much are creative
Yeah.
if they're multi-passionate usually.
Mm-hmm. It really does.
I think too, a lot of people don't think they're creative. I know Marley and I have had this conversation a lot of times because she took these aptitude tests and it told her she wasn't creative in the way that they wanted her to be, right? Or like the way that the test was written out to be, which I just think is so funny because I'm like, it's a test. Like, it's not creative. It's like, it is a box, like A, B, or C, you know?
Right.
And now she's learning and kind of unlearning that it told her what her identity was. And now she's learning, oh my gosh, I am. And creativity can look so different for every kind of different person as well. Like it doesn't have to be one specific avenue. Whether you're into art or you're not doesn't mean you're creative, right? I think it's being creative and in being open to the world and being open to being interested in lots of different things. And I think that's really where creativity actually lies. And we've kind of talked a lot about this, but I do think it's really interesting. I do want to talk about kind of the power of embracing multiple passions. And I feel like society really does push people to kind of choose one path. And I think in the sense of like our schooling system and those kinds of things, they're trying to push everyone through a curriculum. They're trying to get them out into the working world. They're trying to get them into education, right? Furthering education and things like that. So I understand where some of that comes from, but I do know that that doesn't work for everyone. And I know that that was a pain point for me. And it sounds like for you as well, Melissa, and even Marley, like it stunted some growth in different areas or just was kind of painful at times because it was like, is something wrong with me then? Or like, what if I don't know? And I do think that there is a huge myth that you have to niche down in order to be successful as a human, right? I'm not talking about a specific brand or a specific business model or whatever, but just like as a general whole human, I don't think we're meant to be extremely niched down. I mean, we have to do so many things every day and they're all in different capacities and compartments, right? And so what are some of your favorite things to do or to try to be multi-passionate?
Well, as of now, I think I've pretty much tried everything. I have a lot of hobbies, but I love trying out new things with people I love. Maybe I go to a pottery class with a friend, or maybe I try something out with my mom, like this painting medium or whatever. And I think that's what I love about trying out new things and how it makes me feel. I also am very intuitive. And so whenever I feel called to do something, I'm like, okay, I have to do this. And it's also, you have to remember that you're not going to be perfect at it once you're starting to try new things. But that's the beauty of it. You get to try new things and, explore other things. And so those are my favorite things to try and do as a multi-passionate person.
I think the involvement of other people is really awesome because that's also probably going to push you out of the boundaries of maybe what you would do on your own. You're like, oh, this is maybe something they would be really interested in, and I'll give it a go with them. And it doesn't even need to like super resonate with you, and you don't need to be like, now I am this kind of person. I'm in this for the rest of my life. But making that connection with other people and then getting to like experiment and try things, I think is a really great way to kind of flex that creative and multi-passionate muscle to figure out, is this something I potentially like? I don't know, but we had a good time together,
It's really fun to try new things, and it's helped me a lot. As a multi-passionate person, you just want to try everything out there, and it really helps to get to know yourself as well and to discover what you like, what you don't like, what you could do or potentially work as. It really helps. It's like, I love therapy, but I also think doing these type of things help you like discover yourself a little bit more. And so it's
Yeah.
therapeutic in a sense, right?
Oh,
also
for
very
sure. Getting to know yourself, I think, is very therapeutic and very important. How do
Yeah.
you feel like you integrate art and digital creation and entrepreneurship into your life?
So, I've learned that time blocking is essential as a multi-passionate person. We were talking about this like balance. You try to balance all these things, and sometimes they overlap. And that's what I love about being a creative. Sometimes I'm creating content, and then I use my creative skills to make a piece of content that hasn't been out there. Like for Valentine's, because we're close to Valentine's, and I was like, okay, let me create this reel for this client, and it's about me drawing, and so they overlap a lot of the things I love, but sometimes when they don't overlap, I just have to time blocking and um, structuring my day around my passions and my priorities as well. And so I feel like this helps you stay focused on each passion or each thing you have to do while also avoiding burnout, because that's what I feel like a lot of multi-passionates and creatives out there struggle with, like burnout. We do so many things and sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So you got to integrate a little bit of everything.
I think that's great advice for me and probably for so many people listening, because the time blocking, like making sure you get done what you want to get done and need to get done, and that you aren't burning out, because that's a huge thing, I think, for multi-passionate people. I think you hit it right on the head for sure. Do you have advice for people who feel overwhelmed by having too many interests? Like, how do you structure passion without burnout besides just like time blocking and things like that? Any other advice?
So what I like to do is batching similar tasks together in creative ways. So for example, if I have to study, but I also need or want to paint, I usually put what I have to study in Audible or just like, out loud. And so while I'm painting, I'm also studying. And when I'm creating content for work, I'm also on the treadmill getting my workout in. And so I feel like that's very important. That's one of the ways I stay organized, as well as, other time management skills. I think it's called, I don't know if you've heard it before, Eisenhower matrix, something like that. And it's like, it's a time management thing where you get to like prioritize what you need to do and what can actually wait. And so that helps you out. And I feel like there's a lot of things that can help you. Like, I don't know what the word was. Like these strategies, for
Cool.
for time blocking.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to go look that up. Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah.
That sounds super cool. And I could use all of the advice on that one.
I feel like that goes right along with what Marley was talking about with like habit stacking. I think same thing for hobbies, hobby stacking, habit stacking, whatever it is. Like if there is multiple things you want to be doing at the same time, being creative on how you can make that happen is important. Like taking a bath and reading a book, if you want to do both those things, right?
Exactly.
Or walking on the treadmill, like you were saying, and doing homework or doing something fun or creating a video for social media or whatever it might be. Like that's really awesome. And then I think for me too, the other thing I would say with wanting to have multiple interests is just like allowing yourself to not have to do it all at the same time. Sometimes, like for me last year, I was like, oh, I want to get really good at embroidery and I want to be practicing the piano every day. And then I also need to be spending a ton of time with my kids. And I have 3 businesses I'm doing and, all these things. And finally I was just like, okay, well, what if this month I'm going to explore embroidery and the next month I'm going to focus on piano as like one at a time, right? And that way I still get to have multiple, I still get to do lots of things, but it's not all in my head. Oh, and I need to be learning Russian at the same time. You know, I'm not trying to do it all at the very, very same time. And knowing that there are times and seasons, and that's okay too. Like letting yourself just go one at a time sometimes can be good.
There's a quote I really like that it's, you can do everything, just not everything at once. And sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, I can do everything, just maybe not everything right now. Like you said, seasons, like I could do this next month. I could try out this new hobby, like for the fall or for spring. Like you can actually pivot and try out different things and just know that you don't have to do everything right now, today. That really helps a lot.
Sometimes I get a little too excited.
I hyperfixate. I always hyperfixate too.
Absolutely. Yep. No, I love all of that. Oh, I'm just loving this conversation. It's just kind of opening up my mind in a lot of different ways that I just hadn't considered before. So I'm already like really appreciating the thoughts so far. I was also thinking, one of my kind of mini passions, my micro obsession, is learning languages. And I've learned Russian, not like perfectly, obviously, but I'm pretty fluent in it. And then I, a couple years ago, did like a social media fast where I was like, I'm not going to be on social media for a few months. And I was like, I want to replace it, because if you want to get rid of something that you're quote unquote addicted to a little bit, have something, you know, to replace it to help you kind of in that transition. So I replaced my addiction to social media for the few months with Duolingo, and I started Spanish. I started working on that, and I now am a few years later, and I can't give up my streak. I just can't. I finished all of the Ukrainian that they had on Duolingo, which by the way is not very much, but I finished everything they have on Duolingo with Ukrainian. So now I'm just devoting, you know, my like 3 to 5 minutes a day to Spanish, and it's been really fun. And I don't think my Spanish is very good, but I am still learning. So I think another really good way of like learning things or picking up hobbies is if you can kind of gamify it the way that Duolingo does. They're really good at, you know, just 3 minutes. Can you do it for 3 minutes? And then, and so I like to like set little alarms and timers, whatever, or even just like a song you listen to, and that'll be like a timer for me to do something. But yeah, that's one of my passions, and kind of a way that I'm able to squeeze more things in is if I'm like, oh, I can just do a little bit, but I've been doing it for 2 years, two and some change. So
Russian and
yeah.
Spanish. Wow. That's
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of the, kind of along those same lines of what you're saying, Marley, one of the things that we're focusing on this season of the podcast, it's all about pursuing passions. And we have had a lot of people who just genuinely don't even know what they're passionate about. And so they're not feeling multi-passionate. They're like, I don't even know where to start with just one. And I think that can be really, really difficult and hard. And I think for a lot of us who became moms at a young age or whatever, like you start to devote so much of your life and so much of your time and attention to other people, and it's easy to completely lose yourself. And so I really like the idea of just kind of challenging yourself to do something for 2 to 3 minutes and to explore, right? And I was just going to point out, I have this super cute calendar. I don't know if it's going to, my blur is not working for this. Oh, back here. Nice.
There we go.
Pretty.
Really fun calendar from this local artist here in Utah. Her name's Brooklyn Swenson, and I love her. This is not sponsored, but it made me think of it, and I was like, I'm going to go grab it, because it has like a bucket list for every month. And I'm not trying to do everything on the bucket list because I just don't have enough time to do it. But I do think it's a great idea for someone who maybe doesn't even know where to start. I'm like, maybe write down in 1 month, what are some fun things I could try that I've never explored before? Because you were talking about learning languages, and it's like, learn I love you in another language. And so that's something I want to do this week with my kids. I'm like, every day, let's learn I love you in a different language, because that's so fun. We get to explore a new language. It's simple. I can tackle it. It's going to take me 1 minute to Google Translate that, or find a video on YouTube and then practice it with my kid or whatever. But I think something like that, like just identifying, ooh, what are some fun things I could try? Find a unique Valentine's Day card, bake something heart-shaped, make a heart-shaped craft, like try a new box of chocolates, whatever it might be every month. If you're trying to think of, okay, what could I do to kind of flex that creative muscle or to try a hobby that I've never tried before that maybe would spur myself into finding a hobby, could be a great idea for someone who has no idea where to start when it comes to just one hobby to begin.
Mm.
And that's so important as well, what you guys said about doing like Duolingo, that's 3 to 5 minutes, like incorporating these habits or hobbies for, just, 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to spend the whole afternoon doing that. And it's just like setting up small tasks, or yeah, it's just easier and you feel accomplished because you did it. But maybe you didn't spend 4 hours on the project, but you did once a day and that was enough. And that really helps a lot as well, to just do small tasks each day, like habit stacking.
Mhm. Oh, this is so fun. I'm just having a great time. I have to say, this is like in our outline, but I'm just genuinely feeling that there is such magic in this kind of a conversation with people who have that desire to do so many things. And I'm just seeing like how connective you can be when you are multi-passionate. And not to say that people who aren't as maybe multi-passionate as we are can't be as connective, but I think there's definitely something there in the way that we're able to be creative and connect with people on so many different levels and ways. I think it's really advantageous, I feel like, to our life and making it meaningful and more fulfilling. Not just in like I get to do all these things. I get to connect with so many other people, like the learning the language thing, just being able to say I love you in so many different languages that connects you to
Yeah.
that many more people kind of thing. So, it's just, yeah, it's kind of magical, I feel like.
I love what you said.
um,
It opens doors, definitely, right?
yeah.
And I feel like being multi-passionate, we all are at some level. Like maybe you don't have 10 hobbies like me, but maybe you like 2 things, right? And what I've found out, or what I noticed, is that the more authentic you are to yourself, or the more true you are to yourself, the more opportunities life gives you, or like the more miracles happen in your life because you're staying true to yourself. And maybe that's, exploring different passions, or maybe that's learning new languages and connecting with others that are doing the same, or, doing salsa with other people or friends. Like you're just being authentic to yourself, and it feels amazing to be that way. And like you said, it brings meaning to your life. And I feel like at
Mm,
the end of the day, that's what matters the most, right?
absolutely. Yep.
Cool.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah. So how do you create a support system for celebrating your passions and maybe people who are also multi-passionate, maybe those who aren't as multi-passionate? Any advice to creating a support system?
So if you don't follow the Multi-Passionate Club, I
I was
would
gonna
suggest
say.
you do that. There's a
Pro
lot
tip.
of people there that are multi-passionate. And what I was saying before we jumped on the call is that, nowadays we have social media, and I feel like that really helps because we can have a glimpse of each other's lives. And there's a lot of people online that are multi-passionate. And if you can just connect with one person, that changes it all. And that's,
Mm,
like I said, this journey has been amazing with the Multi-Passionate Club. But what I love the most about it is how I've connected with others in so many special ways that I didn't even think possible. Like right now, I'm with you guys, and it feels amazing to know there's other people like me out there. And I would say right now, social media is huge. Just go on social media, find your favorite creators. They don't have to be multi-passionate. They only have, you only have to feel related to them or relatable in some level,
mhm.
and find the people that support your passions as well. Like Kylie, her dad was there, multi-passionate as well. And so I feel like the family, some way or another, is always there for you to support those ideas or dreams or passions you have. And there's always going to be friends that are also going to support you. And I feel like that's very important when it comes down to like friendships. You want people that believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. So like it takes time, right? But you will find people out there that will believe in you and your passions and support that as well.
Amen. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I would just think
Absolutely wonderful.
yeah.
Y'all are too.
I'm like, are you going to start a podcast? Are you going to go around the country and start doing motivational speaking for this?
I know. I'm not good at talking. Like English is my second language and I struggle so much, but yeah.
I just have to say you're amazing in English. So
I know.
you don't even need to worry about that. Like genuinely so impressed that this is your second language and you're going on a podcast and you're starting a whole account, and like I never would have even guessed. So genuinely from the bottom of my heart, like you're an amazing speaker actually, and you have really amazing things to say. They're very inspirational. So I appreciate you coming on here sharing, because I think it's super important. And I think the work that you're doing with your Multi-Passionate Club is so awesome. I'm sure you're learning a lot at rapid fire speeds, because it sounds like it's just absolutely taking off and you're so busy in so many ways. But I think it's really awesome that you're devoting time to connecting with others and helping other people on their journeys. I think that's super important. I've got a couple kind of like random questions for you as we kind of wrap up. What's your current favorite passion project?
I would say piping paint.
Which
starting to.
Is so impressive. We'll share some stuff on
Yeah.
our social media because I'm amazed. I'm like, so cool.
Yeah, it's and you know, we're talking about passions, and when you blend two or more passions, it works out pretty well. And so I loved baking, but also painting. And so there's this thick paint now that's called gap-free paint, I think. And so I bought it, and you just get to pipe paint. It's so funny and so weird, but I love it so much. So
You'll have to do a tutorial at some point so that we can all try it out. That sounds like a fun girls' night.
I have to do that. Yes.
That'd be awesome. Do you like to read?
I love to read.
Okay, what's a book that you're loving right now?
Ikigai.
I haven't heard of that one.
That's
What's
on
it
my
about?
list.
Oh my God, you need to read it. It's all about, well, you've heard about Ikigai, the Japanese term
Yes.
they have. It's like when you combine what the world needs, your passion, what you could monetize off of, or something like that, and something else. And so these 4 points make your Ikigai, which is like your life purpose in Japanese. And so this book is amazing. I have it on my Kindle. It's amazing. I really recommend it.
Ooh, that sounds right up our alley. I'm like,
I know.
you
have to read it.
I appreciate it. Who would you say is your biggest creative inspiration? Or do you have one? Or a couple? Or
So my biggest, I would say, inspiration all of my life has been Van Gogh. Super random, I know. But I love Van Gogh. And every time I paint or do something creative, I think about him, because he was also multi-passionate. He would always, write poetry and write poems about, embracing a lot of your passions. And there's a quote that he has that's actually like, it is good to love many things, for therein lies your true strength. And whoever loves so much, whoever does so much, loves so much, or something like that. Yeah. And so I'd say he's still my biggest inspiration, and I just love everything Van Gogh.
What a good inspiration. He's one of my favorite artists as well. But I think
really?
Yeah. When I was really little, I had an art teacher. She was like the cutest little lady ever. And she would always have us paint Van Gogh. And I aspired to be like him as an artist. So I think that his stuff is so beautiful. I literally looked up the other day. I was like, how do I get the Starry Night above my bed like massive? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive, but it's so beautiful. It's amazing.
You could do it. You could paint it.
I should. That is a really good goal. I should paint it myself. That would be awesome and really fun.
Yes. It's a easy impressionism, or what he does is like easy. So you could totally paint it. It's a fun activity.
For our followers, where can they connect with you? What are your socials?
So my main is Melissa Garza M. And well, the Multi-Passionate Club is just the Multi-Passionate Club on Instagram and TikTok as well.
Oh, awesome. I love that. Okay, do you have any final words of wisdom? What's one thing you would tell someone who's afraid to pursue multiple passions?
I would say that I would tell them that to remember that the more authentic they are to themselves, the more they will receive, whether that's in relationships or opportunities or something else. The right path always reveals itself when you're true to yourself and when you are living on an authentic life, whatever that feels or looks like. I think that's and to always embrace your multi-passionate self. I feel like we've been conditioned to feel like it's something weird or you're scattered around, but it's really not. And you are unique with all of your multiple and different passions. There's no one like you. So that everything you love makes you you. And so that's what I would tell them.
That's beautiful wisdom and beautiful advice, and like kind of like a love letter to yourself. Just like, it's okay to embrace who you are and to love who you are and to take those first steps into who you want to be. And I hope that everyone listening can do that. And I hope that you guys all go follow Melissa. She's adorable, amazing, and her content is phenomenal. And it really is such an inclusive community where you just get to like gel with other people and figure out what you like and honestly get inspiration for maybe what you could try next. And so I've really loved your account, and we just thank you so much for being here. It's been such a fun time to chat with you and get to know you a little better.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this talk. We should do this soon.
I know. I'm like, this is why we have a podcast, because we get to like really dive deep into like what makes you you, and it's so fun.
I could talk about this for hours. We should really, just like go for a coffee and talk about this.
I would love it. Next time we're in Texas, we'll come join you. Or if you ever come to Utah, hit us up.
I will. I do want to go.
It's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. Thanks for joining us this week on Living Big. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you liked this episode, please leave a rating and review.
Join the crew on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for all the behind the scenes, fun, and more. We are incredibly grateful for the community we're building and can't wait to see the growth going forward.
Don't forget to check out Living Big Labs for all of your social media management needs.
Living Big Labs is here to help small businesses thrive by taking the stress of social media off their shoulders so they can focus on what they love and do best.
And remember, you have our permission to let go and live without missing opportunities to connect with other humans. Pursue your passions, no matter how ever changing.
Have fun and live big.